Hi guys, and welcome to AirAbility, your regular dose of lead therapy. And today I'm going to be starting a short series of videos about the rules around World and Benchrest UK tournaments. And hopefully this will give you a visual insight into how the rules apply. But firstly, I need to say that these videos are not a substitute for you actually reading the rules yourself and understanding them yourself. And also, I'm not responsible for your equipment failing any equipment checks in the future because you haven't applied the rules correctly. I think it's really fair to say as well that it is of the utmost importance that everybody tries to, as hard as they can, to meet these rules, because if you're going to a competition and you're shooting out of the side of these rules and you have a competitive advantage, quite frankly, that's not cool. But the rules are there. The good thing is the rules are there and they're clear, and you can do a lot at home to make sure that you're compliant before you go to a tournament. Now, should we get onto the science bit and start talking about rules and boring people witless? I'll do my best to try and make them sound exciting. Please remember, if you have a question about the rules at an event, ask a committee member at the competition desk for official clarification. If you believe someone is competing outside of the rules, do not try and resolve it yourself. Fill out a protest form available at the competition desk. The committee will look into it and take any required action. At competition, you've got a choice of either shooting rimfire, air rifle or both. Now, the calibers, rimfire is shot at .22 caliber and in all events. So, air rifle is slightly different. You can shoot .22, .20 or .177 calibers in air rifle, but you need to remember that your cards will be marked as if you shot a .22 caliber air rifle, and each hole will be probed to the .22 caliber size. So that's cool to know. There are two main weight categories as well. Benchrest UK shoots light varmint and heavy varmint, and the easy way to remember this is light varmint is below 10.5 pounds or 4,762 grams, and heavy varmint is above 10.5 pounds but below 15 pounds, which is 6,803 grams. And yes, I am reading this from a piece of paper. So it is your responsibility to make sure your rifle comes in within those weights. What I will say is most of the rifle shooters shoot a rifle in a light varmint configuration and then go on to shoot it in the HV competitions. What I will say is, from my personal understanding, it can be quite difficult to make a rifle come in under the LV class limit, and to do this sometimes you have to buy specific Benchrest scopes that use the lighter, take off excess things on the rifle such as big metal cocking handles, and I actually removed the aluminium butt plate on rifles and replace it with a carbon one, which really saves me a lot of weight. So it's your responsibility to get in underweight. Here's a quick picture of my rifle. I've got a whole 30 grams to spare. Wow. So I don't know what I'm going to do with those 30 grams. Now, the stock. If you read the rules, there are loads and loads of information about how your stock needs to comply to the rules for Benchrest, and you need to read them. But some of the main highlights are, at the widest point, the stock cannot be wider than 3 inches or 76 millimeters. Where the stock meets the rest, it must be flat, so you cannot be seen as manipulating the way the stock sits in the rest so it jams in better. So it has to be a flat surface, the underneath of the rest. So most people have a block on their guns that sits in the rest. This needs to be flat. You can't have a track in it or any sort of linear markings, etc., that could grip on the back. So at the back of the gun, the butt, the underneath of the butt, if that is flat and square, that cannot be over 25 millimeters across on the flat. But if you have a curved underside of your butt, like we most do, if you have a curved underside to your stock, where it meets the bag also can be no wider than 25mm or 1 inch. Also, long ways, your butt has to be either straight or convex, like the outside of a circle, the curve of the outside of a circle. And a good example of this is the HFT 500. As you can see, the HFT 500 has a concave butt. This does not allow the rifle to move freely over the back bag as required, and therefore it is illegal in Benchrest competitions. Now this can be overcome by adding what is called a bag rider. And yes, my mate Tom Jacobs makes them. He's an example of a bag rider fitted to a HFT 500, and as you can see, it gets round the issue of having a concave butt, and nobody wants a concave butt, do they? So we've covered that. Now a few other things. When your rifle at its widest part fits in the rest here in the front, you need to be able to remove the rifle from the rest without having it lift the rest. That is really important. It's called clamping if the rest comes up with the rifle. You cannot do that. You can't clamp your rifle. So make sure when you're setting up that your rifle can be lifted from the rest, because range officers may check this. The same with the back bag. The back bag cannot be so tight that the gun cannot be lifted out of the bag. And when the rifle is seated in both the back bag and the rest, it must be able to be freely moved back and forward to show that the rifle is not clamped. Please remember, once the range officer has cleared the detail to shoot, you can no longer adjust the pressure on your front bag. You must wait until the range officer asks you at the end of a detail to return your gun to the box. You can see here clearly that the rifle has both free movement back and forward in the rest and the back bag. Therefore, we can all clearly see that the rifle has not been clamped. Unlike the front rest, the back bag cannot have any mechanical operation or adjustment, but you can place the bag on top of blocks to make it the correct height for shooting. Air rifles in World and Benchrest UK tournaments are subject to certain power restrictions, and those power restrictions are: in light varmint class, the rifles must be sub 12 foot-pounds in energy. In the heavy varmint class, they must be sub 20 foot-pounds in muzzle energy. But Benchrest UK tournaments shoot both classes at sub 12 foot-pounds muzzle energy to ensure they adhere to UK airgun law. It is your responsibility to chronograph your rifle before an event to make sure when you come to the event you're meeting all the UK airgun laws and your rifle is sub 12 foot-pound. If on initial inspection your rifle creeps over 12 foot-pounds, you'll be asked to turn it down before your competition. Later on, if your rifle is found during random checks after details have been shot, if your rifle is found to have creeped back over the 12 foot-pound limit, you will be disqualified from that event. You need to remember, if you don't have that rifle on an FAC, you are breaking the law as well. So it is really important that everybody makes sure that they're in control of the muzzle energy of their rifles. A few points to consider. I always check mine regularly to make sure my rifle doesn't creep before tournaments. And the last tournament there was some extreme heat, and some rifles were seen to have actually climbed in muzzle energy because of the heat. My rifle climbed 0.3 of a foot-pound above what it usually is, but I shoot with quite a large margin of error, and I have my rifle set at quite a margin below 12 foot-pounds, so this would never be a problem if I have creep, and that is something for you guys to consider. So remember guys, if you're turning up to a Benchrest UK tournament, your rifle must operate at sub 12 foot-pound muzzle energy. Also, one thing that you need to remember is your bags can only be filled with sand, both your back bag and your front bag. I see a lot of debate on the internet about what do I fill my bag with. Well, you don't have a choice, it has to be sand. It's in the rules. So hopefully, with a bit of luck, this has given you an insight into some of the main rules around your rifle when you're shooting in World and UK, in Benchrest UK competitions. So get out there, read the rules and understand them yourself, because it's your responsibility to make sure you implement them at competitions. The next video I do will be about range etiquette and setting up at the range when you start a competition, and hopefully that will enable people to understand what's going to happen in a competition, so people don't get stressed and worried about will they be able to do everything they need to do in the allotted time before they shoot. So until next time, even with all the rules, we can still keep living that airgun dream. You take care then. Bye bye.